Welcome to She's a Full-On Monet, a digital lifestyle magazine for women. Every week, our editor-in-chief, Kelly Castillo, along with Megan Block and special guests, participate in a deep dive discussion about recent articles and topics we have covered. We invite you to become part of our community where everyone's welcome. You can totally sit with us.
Hello, everyone. I'm back. Welcome back. To She's a Full-On Monet. I'm your host, Kelly, and I have with me, as always, Megan.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Kelly.
Hello. So we just had Halloween, and that to me is like signals the start of the madcap rush holiday season. It feels like everything's kind of, in my life at least, everything's kind of smooth until Halloween. And we always do Halloween really big. It's my oldest child's birthday. And we usually have a big Halloween party. We haven't the last 2 years, but Halloween for us is like a big holiday. And then it feels like it's almost immediately into like fast forward to the end of the year. Like I blink and it's New Year's.
I know.
And so I wish I could slow down this time of year, but it for years and years, I mean, gosh, the last 27 years, it's been like that. So I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Are you busy because you're traveling, or what makes it busy for you? I know I'm guilty of just like overdoing it, so to speak. So that's why it feels like it rushes for me, but I don't ever travel, but it still feels rushed. So why does it feel rushed?
My partner's birthday is in the end of November. It's usually Thanksgiving or that week. So that makes Thanksgiving extra hard for us. And we do tend to travel for Thanksgiving. Our kids are spread out around the country. So we go to the East Coast or South to spend Thanksgiving most of the time to see our kids over there. And we also, like, December is one of the biggest months for the charity circuit. And we support a lot of charities here in our local area and nationally. But so there's a lot of galas and charity stuff and kind of end of the year contributions for tax purposes. And also like holiday parties for our employees of our different companies. And it just gets really crazy. It feels like we've got something going on every single day, if not every week. But you know, I love the holiday season. I'm not complaining at all. And
that's why I get bummed. I want it to last 6 months because I like, it's my favorite time of year, but I feel like I get too overwhelmed with everything we have to do that I don't actually get to like show up for it. Ever.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, you know,
we are renovating our normal home. So we're in a different house and we'll be here through the whole holiday season. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I have to figure out, like we were trying to figure out last night, my son came over for dinner. We were trying to figure out where to put a Christmas tree, moving furniture around, trying to find a spot for a Christmas tree. This has never been anyone's full-time home that we're in. So I asked, and they were like, there's never been a Christmas tree in this house. So we don't know where you would put it. So I have to figure that out. And we didn't bring any of our decorations with us because we were kind of trying to move lightly. And so I've got to figure out like decorating a tree from scratch, but it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Is there,
and I mentioned,
but is there companies that you can rent stuff like that?
See, that's the thing. I mentioned to my kids, why don't we just have like, there's decorating companies that will come in and put up your tree, like all the decorations.
No way.
Like, you know, around here, we have a company called Rogers Gardens, who everybody knows is in Southern California. They're really well known. They will like deliver a fully decorated tree and then pick it up after Christmas. So there's other companies though that are more reasonable that also do that. So I asked the kids, like, what do you guys think about that? And their jaws dropped and they were like, don't you dare. Like, that's a Christmas tradition, decorating the tree as a family. Like, absolutely not. But
are they one to want to use their own ornaments too? Because like sometimes you got to be a little flexible when things are kind of wacko.
No, and that's the thing, because every year
they just want to do it.
Yeah. Every year we do a theme. So we don't use the same ornaments year to year to year. One year we did the entire tree in origami cranes in holiday.
I know you do that.
Yeah.
How do you get away with that? You buy them and then store them, or we
have like 3 sets of really high quality glass ornaments in basic colors. Like we have a neutral set and then a red and green, and then a white and silver set. So those are our base. And then everything else that goes on the tree is customed for that year. And we don't shop expensively for that. I'll go to like Big Lots. I'll go to Target. I'll go like wherever I think I can find something, Dollar Tree sometimes. And then again, like that one year, the kids made paper cranes out of holiday origami paper, and the whole tree was paper cranes. And it looked absolutely beautiful. And it cost us whatever the cost of the paper was, like super cheap. So we do it different every year, color scheme wise and kind of theme. But the base ornaments are usually the same. But we did not bring those with us this trip, so we're gonna have to start from scratch.
Okay.
It'll be fine. It'll all be fine.
Yeah, it always is. That's what your motto is for everything going on in your life. Yeah, no, it's craziness. And then, but you're still traveling a lot during the holiday season too, because all your kids come home? Are you home base, or are you still traveling?
On actual Christmas,
Just during that Christmas.
Yeah, this week we were supposed to be up in Sonoma to see the grandkids, and Alex is having trouble with his back and he's in a lot of pain, so we didn't go. And then December we were supposed to go with a group of our friends to the UK. Remember I told you I was staying in the Hogwarts castle? That trip got canceled because of COVID restrictions.
No.
Yeah, I know.
I just want really to bummed. That trip through you. That's all. Oh my goodness.
I'm really bummed, but we'll be around for the holidays and we'll make it work. It'll all be great.
Have you ever tried just canceling, just saying, I tried one year to just not do much of anything and just try to enjoy the process of the season. That still doesn't work. You still feel like you're doing last minute. I even tried that year to get my shopping done way early, so I didn't have to worry about rushing around and getting things done.
Okay. So
now you have this worry of like gift shortages and like all this.
Yeah,
and like,
that's one thing this year that we are doing different when we've never done this before. Now that our kids are older, we no longer have kids in the house. They all have their own places. And so they don't have a ton of storage space, and they're living in apartments, most of them. And so this year we decided, partly because of supply chain issues and partly because of their ages, that except for the grandkids, we're just going to get 2 or 3 presents under the tree for each kid. And then we're going to do like a financial gift for them, because normally you've seen our Christmas tree. Like the presents it takes us hours on Christmas morning to open presents.
That part in Home Alone 2 when like Duncan's toy chest like gives the whole family a ton of presents. That's you every Christmas.
Yeah. But the thing is, now that the kids are adults on their own, they buy gifts for each other as well. So it's not all on us anymore like it was when they were little. So even if we only buy 2 or 3 gifts, there's a lot of kids and they're going to give gifts to each other. And so that's already like enough to open.
I agree.
So we're just gonna, and they have financial goals right now. Like they, some of them are trying to relocate or purchase vehicles or pay off student loans or whatever their issues are. So we're just going to help them a little bit financially and give them less in presents, but I think it'll be good.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. And I have kids. One was born in January and the other's born early February. So it's just like spacing Christmas and those birthdays out.
Yep.
Ricky.
My girls are January and February too.
And I have she'll be 10 this year, and she's asking for her first phone, and she's asking Santa real hard for Christmas. And I already know that Santa and I talked, and Santa and I decided that she's going to get it for her birthday. So I already know that it's going to be like not as big of a Christmas, but it's tough, especially with the supply chain issues. People are starting to like, my dad was asking me yesterday, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, maybe he's trying to figure it out so that if I want it and it's not available, he's not stressing. So
I'm hoping that people take advantage as much as they can of the supply chain issues this year and buy more handcrafted stuff from Etsy and like craft fairs, farmers market stuff. Really, people find those like small brand users, small brand businesses and providers. I mean, you can give someone lessons in something, or a gift certificate for a massage, or something that supports an actual small business owner and an individual person, rather than hitting Walmart on Black Friday and just go nuts, right?
Or Amazon. That's my go-to for everything. So no, the holiday season is
upon us.
And I've already purchased like more Christmas things in the October month, like just by walking into Target and needing shampoo and seeing because I know how it works. If you see it, you got to buy it, because the holiday season's crazy and they don't stock as much. So you start to think about Christmas at times of the year that I feel like you
I
really
will-
shouldn't have to.
I was driving yesterday, and as I drove through a shopping center in town here, they already had their Christmas garlands and decorations up on the signs and the light poles. And I was
Yeah, South Coast
floored.
Plaza down is already like decked out. They were decked out like a couple days before Halloween. I was like, oh, this is like
Slow
Jack
it down.
Skellington's like fantasy. It's like two holidays combining here. Yeah,
It used to be the day after Thanksgiving for Black
Oh,
Friday, and it was all
remember that?
decorated. And then it got earlier and earlier and earlier. And now I feel like it's going to be August, and they're going to be putting out holiday decorations.
No, there's some places they
As
do.
soon as back to school is done, and they're like, okay, holiday.
While you're getting your pencils and your school supplies, shop for Christmas supplies. Yeah, it's crazy. And then you have this feeling and this feeling that comes upon you like, do I need to get it now? Do I need to start worrying about that now? Because, you know, if you're shopping for Christmas stuff in November, you're late. You know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
hate it.
absolutely. The only thing I think I really do need to go over into our storage and get out of from the Christmas decorations is the kids' stockings, because they're
Mhm.
individual. They have their
That's
names
true.
on them. They're like an heirloom piece. So
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
things are very, very like particular that you can't just buy another one. Or if you do, they feel like you gypped them.
yeah,
But
exactly.
my grandma made all our stockings. So, you know, and then when the kids were born, she made ones to match ours so that they all looks cohesive if they're hanging up. But they're the ones
That's
that I had since I
beautiful.
was a kid. And so now Kenzie and Emma, my daughters, they both have ones that look the same. And I mean, man, if I see some really cute stockings, but I've never bought them because I always just love those ones so much. I get
Yeah.
that. I understand.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about the holidays, partly because it is the holidays, and also because our topic today is how to set boundaries with your family during the holiday time. And I think this is something that we first visited on last year because, as everybody knows, 2020 was an incredibly divisive year for the world, for America, for families. Whether it was politics or people's reactions to the pandemic, there was a really big rift in some families that maintains to this day. I know people who no longer talk to a lot of their relatives that they had relationships with before 2020 because of politics or because of their response to COVID. So we want to talk today about how to navigate the holidays if that's kind of your situation. If you're in a family where there's a lot of different political views and people feel strongly, or you know that people feel strongly about the pandemic and the government's response to it, or whatever aspect is kind of causing issues in the family. We want to talk about how you can still enjoy the holidays and navigate that. It's all about setting boundaries. I'm a huge advocate of setting boundaries in your life, and it's a generational thing. It's something that we've talked about, you and I, Megan, before, about how proud we are of the younger generations and how good they're doing at setting boundaries for themselves. It's not something we were raised and taught to do. We were just taught, respect your elders and let them do whatever, and they can do no wrong, right?
And then see them in these holiday moments and like totally be normal. It's the weirdest thing. You're like, but I don't agree. Okay, sure. Now I'm like, I love it. I love that we all can have our own opinions about it. But yeah, moving on.
Yeah. Well, and respect for your elders used to be an automatic thing, no matter how you were being treated or no matter what was being said. And now I think the world at large is kind of, though I still hear it from the older generations and they're still pretty mad about it. But I think the world at large realizes now that respect is a two-way street and it is earned. And I think that's really important.
You could have, I mean, it could have nothing to do with the current world state or thoughts on politics or any of that. I mean, it could have just been a really awkward moment for your family last month, and now you're rolling into the holiday season and mom and dad just split up because there was like an affair or something. Like it could just literally have nothing to do with what's going on, but it could still just be going into a hard season for your family or your whatever relative or close friend. And how do you navigate through that without coming across a certain way that you maybe don't want to?
Right. Because the holiday season is the hottest, most difficult season for mental health in general. It's a very difficult time for people to navigate. They see people during the holidays repeatedly that maybe they don't see the entire rest of the year. A lot of people went through major life changes in the last 2 years. They left jobs, they changed careers, they got divorces, they got had babies that maybe their relatives have never met. I mean, there's a lot that happened in that period of time that is kind of ripe for discussion around the Thanksgiving table. So we want to talk about that.
Right.
And so one of the most important things, I think, for anybody who is feeling that anxiety and that anticipation of, oh my gosh, I'm going to see these people and I need to figure out how to respond. I think the very most important thing, very first thing, is that you have to set expectations with your family members in advance of the event. So it goes a long way to kind of having everyone be on the same page, or at least not feel blindsided by other people's reactions. So if ahead of time, it's an awkward conversation, we get that. But it's more awkward to have it day of than to have it in advance. And you can do this with a phone call. You can do this with an email, write a letter, like whatever you're comfortable with. You have plenty of time to kind of think through this and be able to communicate. I personally communicate best in the written word rather than, just on the fly talking to someone on the phone. I like to write out my thoughts and read it back to myself and make sure it doesn't sound too emotional. It doesn't sound too blame placing. I like to be really, really deliberate in my word choices. So I like to write. So I'll either write an email or write a letter. That would be my preference. But it's really up to you. And I think it's really worth it if you talk to your family in advance and let them know what your expectations are and what your boundaries are. That will go so far. And you don't have to say, hey, these topics are not going to be discussed at the Thanksgiving table. That's an idea, but you don't have to say that. You can just say that you want to make sure everyone enjoys themselves and has a wonderful time. And you're really looking forward to seeing everybody. When you write a letter like this, you always want to start positively. You always want to compliment or say something positive in the beginning, because it really sets the tone for the way the conversation is going to go. So you want to say how excited you are to see all these family members and how much you want to make sure that everyone enjoys themselves that day and enjoys each other's company. And then, and you want everyone to have a good time with one another. That being said, I think these topics we should all agree that this is not the appropriate venue to be talking about these particular topics. Mm-hmm. And then again, you're not saying, I don't want anyone to talk to me personally about these topics. You're saying for everyone's benefit and everyone's enjoyment, let's just table these topics for this occasion. I think that's very appropriate. And
appropriate.
And I'm not sure how that would offend anybody.
Because you don't want to have it be on your mind all day, wondering if it's going to pop up. You don't want to have to worry about being as eloquent in your wording if they were to surprise you with it over the dinner table. So, I mean, to some people, it may be like, to the receiver, it may be like, I had no intention on bringing it up. But you know what? Better safe than sorry, because you don't want to be surprised. And you have a right to enjoy your day. And so does everyone else. And you don't want to have that on your mind, because maybe they weren't going to bring it up. Maybe they weren't going to talk about it. Maybe it wasn't going to be a problem, but now it will for sure not be a problem because it's already been discussed. And if there's an issue, there's time before the event to work that out.
Yeah. And if the subject that you're concerned about isn't a political subject, isn't COVID related, and nothing that, maybe you went through divorce or you're going through a divorce and you really don't want to be asked about it 572 times at dinner. Or you left your job and you know that everyone's going to be asking you, have you found a new job yet? What are you doing? Are you going to be okay? Like, you can just tell people, like, I wanted to update everyone at once in this letter. Here's the update. This is something I'm still working through. I'm sensitive a little bit about it. So if we could just not discuss this during Thanksgiving, because I just updated everybody at once. So
nothing more to discuss about.
Nothing more to see here. Yeah.
We're clear. Yeah. That's a very good idea and a very mature way to handle it, and a very everybody comes out winning, because then no one's going to be hurt or offended, and no one, like I said, I overwork. I'm an over worrier anyway, and I overthink things. And if I were to go into one of those moments, I would be thinking about it all day, wondering if it's just going to pop up or happen. And then there goes my whole holiday.
You're exactly right. Even if the subject never comes up during the whole dinner, your dinner will be ruined by the anticipation of that shoe dropping on your head.
No matter how much you try to get it off your head, there's no way it's not. You're going to be looking at that person or that thing or that subject and going, when is it going to happen? Who needs that? You might just, for your own sanity, for your own happiness, cover that base So then that way there's nothing more to discuss about it. And if somebody brings
Right.
it up, well, because they still might, then, I don't know what you didn't understand about the assignment, but we all discussed, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's a great way to handle it.
I have a family member right now who is going through a separation and contemplating a divorce. And I know that person would prefer not to be asked about it a lot at the holidays. So this would be a great way for them to handle it and to just say, look, I know you guys are all wondering what's going on. I don't have a clear update for you yet. Yes, there's this struggle thing happening, but I just want to enjoy my time with you guys and enjoy my holiday. And I just rather not touch on that subject. If everyone would be understanding of that, that's a very polite request. I don't see how that would offend anybody. But I have found, this is the next tip too. I have found in family dynamics that everyone tends to be pretty well behaved around the dining table for Thanksgiving or any holiday.
Yeah.
It's afterwards when you kind of move into the living room, everyone gets kind of casual, like unbuttons that top button for the turkey tummy. And that's when conversations can steer sideways.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to kind of plan for that and have activities in mind rather than just sitting around talking. Because when you just sit, I love talking with my family, I can do it for hours. But when you're trying to avoid a particular subject and you just sit around and are finding things to talk about, it'll come back around to that. It's almost impossible to avoid it. It's like an elephant in the room scenario. So I think if you plan ahead, if your family is a football family, obviously Thanksgiving, that's the time to watch the game. If you're not, like my family's not a sports family, we play board games. And that's a way to kind of fill the idle time and not just be everyone asking about everyone else's lives and everything personal. So we play board games, we do puzzles, things like that as a family around the table. And it fills the time. It gives us something that we're all focusing on. And instead of feeling like they're going to be focusing on you and your issues or the elephant in the room political issue or whatever it is you're trying to avoid talking about.
Yeah, that's a really good tip because if you're going through a tough time, you can always talk to the host and say, hey, I know we typically tend to just go into the other room and, have a glass of wine and chat. Is there any way, and suggest a few games to play? I was thinking this year we could try this. It would, help. And if the host knows what you're going through, it kind of would help. If you're not the host or you're not the one running the show, but you are attending something that's where it happens, you can always suggest it to the person hosting because they might like the idea for the sheer fact it will shake it up, and then you'll avoid that whole situation.
Yeah, or you can be proactive about it and bring a game from home that you think everyone would enjoy, or find a game. And if your family's not game players, there are a lot of these. They're still called board games, but they're not games. They're like boxes of conversation topics. And you can find ones that specifically there's nothing offensive, divisive in there. It's like, tell me your first memory or of driving in a car, or tell me the best road trip you ever took. Like there's a lot of, and you get to know your family really deeply and maybe hear stories you haven't heard before. It's a really wonderful bonding opportunity that helps also to have conversation with your loved ones and have them feel like they're connecting with you, but not have to talk about things that you prefer not to talk about.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that because some people just aren't game families. They don't really enjoy that competitive nature, like that aspect, but there is fun ways to just bring other subjects up that aren't in line with the one you're trying to avoid. That's fun.
If you are the one that is hosting this holiday season, you have a little bit more control about this issue. And I know everybody loves to do like beautiful holiday tablescapes for their Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner. I mean, if you look on Pinterest for holiday tablescapes, you will find 80 gazillion options, and they're beautiful. And there's so many things you can DIY on your holiday table that really set the tone for the kind of event you want to be having.
Ooh, and are we talking about this now? Let's switch subjects and talk about this. This sounds fun. That's all I do. Okay. No,
but if you're hosting, or if your parents are hosting, or you have some kind of control over the table, just they have these beautiful like little name card holders, little beautiful name places that don't look like you're being purposeful about it, But if you know two people are having an issue or they have opposite political views and it's going to come up, or, you've got a hardcore Biden supporter, hardcore Trump supporter, maybe separate them at the table, maybe make a beautiful place card for them at opposite ends. That would be lovely. If you have people who just don't get along with each other, don't seat them next to each other. If you don't plan for that ahead of time, they could just plop down next to each other and everyone's waiting for the explosion.
Oh yeah.
So,
no,
yeah.
I mean, on major holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I mean, my family growing up, and we didn't have like a huge amount of people, but my mom loved to like put place cards. And I now think it's really because some people were drama stirrers and she probably didn't want them near other people. But I would thought it was just, to make the whole thing cohesive. No, that's like a silent way to like, it's not purposeful because everything looks beautiful and intentional anyway, but it's a good way to control the environment. So, without people raising an eyebrow, or maybe they do, but you know what, if you don't know that you can't sit next to so-and-so this Christmas because of what's going on, well, then you need a place card to tell you not to sit there. Cause you know what I mean? Like,
or if you have two sides of your family that have opposite beliefs about something and it tends to come up a lot, seat the ones with the similar beliefs together at one end of the table and the opposite ones at the other end of the table. So they can talk about that in their own discussions and everybody will be agreeable and happy with each other. And there won't be two people sitting next to each other who can't wait until the subject of the vaccine comes up or something.
Oh man, did you say vaccine? Yeah. Then they just, like, they're just waiting. So just like make it harder for them to communicate aggressively towards each other.
Correct. Yes. And a large flower arrangement in the center of the table where you can't shout over it is also a wonderful addition. A cornucopia that you can't see the person over. Yes.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I think also if you have relatives who tend to be particularly divisive, negative, kind of people who tend to criticize, and you're kind of just waiting for it because Aunt so-and-so always makes a comment about this. Grandma whatever always talks about my weight. I don't want to talk about it. One of the things I have found with everyone, this works in business, it works personally also. If you have people who are like that, I call them porcupines because you don't hug a porcupine because if you hug a porcupine more than once, it's your fault. Like, yeah. So I have found with those kinds of people, if you are proactively nice, they have a harder time saying something kind of like a dig at you. So if the minute you see them, you say, oh my gosh, Aunt Sharon, your hair looks amazing today. What did you do different to it? I love that look on you. She's probably not going to follow that up with a comment about how you gained weight during the last year. If that's what she usually goes to. If that person usually tries to jab at you, be proactively overly nice. I mean, people can tell also when you're pouring it on thick, but find something to compliment that person on. And it's harder if you just received a compliment from someone, it's harder to jab them.
I mean, you gotta be like some pure evil shenanigans going on if you're trying to like follow that up with like a dick. I mean, it's been done, but it's harder to do than just a simple happy Thanksgiving or Merry Christmas or hello.
It's so nice to see you. Yeah. No, you have to be very specific and you have to compliment that specific person.
You have to choose something and you have to but not like you said, it can come across like opposite of what you're trying to achieve if you overdo it, because then it's like,
or if you have a relative who particularly comments on the same thing every year and it's something that really just kind of pushes a button for you. For me, you can say anything you want to about me and I have absolutely no problem shrugging it off. I take nothing personally. Like, honestly, you can say something horrible to me and I'll be like, okay. But if you say something about my kids, the top of my head blows off and steam pops out like a cartoon character. Like I don't know. Don't mess with my kids or my dogs. Say whatever you want about me. Like, not my
dogs.
Not my babies. So I know when my kids were really small. Now, again, I have a lot of kids, so they make a lot of noise because there's a lot of them. I would have relatives say things about like how noisy they are and how I didn't make them sit at the table for the whole dinner. I let them get up before everyone else, and that's rude. Like little comments like about my parenting or about my kids' behavior. And I think my kids are fantastic and very well behaved, but as you get older, I've noticed you get less tolerant of children, like when that you don't have them anymore. So if you're proactively nice about that and you just tell the person who says the comment every time, before they can say it, if you say, thank you so much for your patience with my kids today. Like the holidays are so hard for little ones. And how are they going to say it after you said that? Like how are they going to say, well, they're so loud. You just complimented them on their patience. So they look like a 10,000 times bigger jerk if they say something. I mean, that's how I would handle it.
Yeah. And you're also somehow like admitting that they're not perfectly angelic children. So it's like, why would you bring up something that the person has already consciously brought to light that they are not perfect on? Even if you don't flipping mean it, you're just diffusing the situation. So it makes it harder for them to be terrible people, because that's really they're not terrible people. I've noticed that you're right. As you get older and you really don't live in a house with young children, or you're not around young children unless you just go to Target real quick, you just become less tolerant. I get it. It's just it's the worst when you're a parent of young children. That's all you do, and it's like, I flipping know it's loud. Like, welcome to my life. I haven't heard silence in forever, and when I do, it's concerning. So you know what I mean?
Well, and as a parent, we live it day to day, so it's our normal, but we have to have a little bit of understanding for people whose kids have been out of the house for a long time, who haven't been around little ones for a long time. It's not their normal. So behaviors that to you are, yes, they get up before everyone else at the table and no, they didn't ask to be excused. And yes, they're on their iPad. Yes, they are. That is something that maybe that wasn't an issue when their kids were small because it was so long ago.
iPads, okay, my mom would have given me the iPad the minute if dinner finished. But
oh my god,
okay.
if iPads existed when my kids were small, they each would have had their own from like 1 year old. I'm not kidding you. Just so I could take a bath or like cook dinner or whatever. Like
it's not even so you could go to Vegas or something.
No.
People think that we're living our literal, like not even our best lives, like a better version of that when our kids are on our iPads, because oh my gosh, they're on their iPads. So like, no, it's just like, how else are the dishes ever going to get clean?
Right. So we're terrible. Yeah. Just so I could function. I would have loved that.
Right. Love it. But they didn't have that choice. So they had
to watch DVDs of Fantasia for the 150th
or watch
time.
Family Matters for the billionth time. Go watch that. Go watch Seinfeld for a minute while I go do this. That's what they had. Yeah. But it's been a minute. My dad, he's, he loves seeing the grandkids, but man, after it's been like a certain amount of time, it starts to be a different visit. You know what I mean? Right. Like he starts to get, because he's just simply, it's just a muscle he hasn't used in a very long time. And I try and not take it personally, but when you are a mom of young kids and you're going to a family function or holidays where you're going to be around Aunt so-and-so who's literally never had kids, never been around kids, and that energy is going to be there, it could be something that you're carrying in. So that's a really good tip. If you kind of, before she even says anything, bring it up to diffuse the situation, but also it is really hard to bring something up when the person has admitted that there is, like I said, not a problem, but that the situation exists, Yeah. You're admitting that it's loud. So why would they mention that it's loud? I just admitted to you that it was loud. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just diffuses it. That's a great way. I wish I would have thought about that a few times, because I have had moments like that where I'm like dreading that comment, and then that comment comes and I'm like, there it is. How could I diffuse that ahead of time?
That's you got to be proactive. I know, like when my dad first got his hearing aids, I think he had gone for a while without realizing how bad his hearing actually had gotten. So when he first got hearing aids, the kids' noises that they were making, I mean, it wasn't like they were making new noises or they got suddenly louder, but to him, it got exponentially louder than it had been. And he would make little comments, and I knew where it was coming from, but it still felt like a criticism of me as a mom, or like, because you want, when it's your kids, if someone says something even remotely could be taken as negative, we're all as moms so sensitive to it. So
especially when if it's your own parents, because
Yeah.
we're already sensitive to criticism from our parents naturally.
Right.
So if they're criticizing our parenting, which is something that, I'm sorry, if you're a parent, that's like I'm assuming one of the biggest accomplished, like our biggest flex is how we are as our parent. So if our parent is criticizing even the smallest thing about it sends the biggest, senses.
It's really pushing us on our most sensitive spot. And I know for myself, and I know for my own kids, that the parent-child dynamic never goes away. No matter, you could be 80 and 60, and you're still like a parent-child. It doesn't matter how mature and accomplished and grown up you get, you're still a child around your parent, and they are still a parent. So yeah, if you're really sensitive about it, if you maybe you have that one relative who always comments that, your kids are in their pajamas in the afternoon, whatever it is, be proactive. Always be proactive. Just say, you know what, we decided today to focus on the cooking, and we were going to let the kids be comfy. So yes, they're in their pajamas, we know, and just kind of laugh about
Lord's Day.
Yeah, just kind of laugh about it and be like, I know they're in their pajamas. It's 3:00.
Be realistic. Know it's coming, but know you have options to diffuse it, to make it less personal on your heart.
Yeah, and
you don't need that.
For myself, I'm really sensitive to criticism sometimes. But if I criticize, that's not the right word. But if I say it myself as a joke, like, yeah, I know, like, I'm still in my pajamas, whatever, like, I won't feel bad about it, because I'm diffusing.
You're giving yourself permission to be okay with the situation, and then who's going to say what to make you feel bad when you've already given yourself permission?
Right.
Even when we subconsciously give ourselves permission, sometimes if grandma or mom says something, it's almost like you question your thoughts,
Right. And it could be whatever your issue is. It could be the way your kids are groomed. It could be how clean your house is. It could be how loud they are,
the cooking, something like that, you know.
And then
it could be the way
your dogs jump on people, like whatever it is that is going to get brought up and you're sensitive about it. Bring it up yourself, diffuse the situation. The only way to do it. So one of the reasons that conversations can go south on the holidays is alcohol. And my family, we don't really drink alcohol we're not big alcohol people anyway. So I never drank alcohol like as part of my family gatherings growing up, but I know a lot of families, it's part, having wine with dinner is like a whole thing, or having a cocktail. And I think that's totally fine. But there are certain family members maybe who that can create some loose tongues and some more, inhibitions gone, and saying things that maybe they wouldn't have said before the alcohol started flowing. So I think if that is an issue for your family, if you're hosting, you have more control, obviously. And you just need to kind of try and pace it out over dinner, or create some amazing theme fall or holiday mocktail that you can serve. And other than that, I mean, some people are just going to insist, and if you don't have it at home, they'll go out and get some.
I'm like, you do your best. But if you're stocking your shelves in your fridge with options, and then you're like, why are things going south after dinner? Well, it's like you're not helping it. You don't have to encourage it, but I don't know, it's up to you. Some people really like to have, when they host, like an all around options for everybody. But again, if you make some specialty drink that's really the highlight, then that could be what the focus is, and it won't even seem weird that something like that is missing.
When my kids were small, I didn't drink around them, and that was my own personal choice. I'm no judgment on anybody who does. Now that they're grown, I absolutely do. So when they got to be teenagers, I absolutely was like, I'm having a glass of wine with dinner. This is what it is. But so we always serve like sparkling apple cider.
I didn't want to. I'm personally that person right now. I don't mean to interrupt, but I just don't want to be, in my children's eyes, that mom or that parent that always needs a cocktail or a thing with alcohol, even when it's there. Because I grew up in a house where both my parents drank more than they should have. My dad has been sober for almost 11 years now, but when growing up, alcohol was always around, always, always. So now I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be that mom that they associate with alcohol all the time. So yes,
Right.
I'm more conscious because they're young. And I thought I was unique, but you bring that up and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
that's the thing.
growing up, I rarely saw my dad drink. He would have a beer after mowing the lawn, and that was pretty much it. We never really had that much alcohol in the house. And it wasn't like a thing for us. And it wasn't a big deal. I never thought about it twice. But I realized when my kids were small that when they got to a certain age and I needed to have that conversation with them about alcohol, I didn't want to come across as hypocritical. So
Ooh.
I was very careful about keeping alcohol in the house, drinking in front of them, drinking when we were out to dinner, because I never wanted them to see me have a drink and then drive them home, even if it was one drink. Because I had that conversation with them when they got their driver's license about an absolute zero tolerance. And I didn't want to be saying that, speaking out of both sides of my face, basically, because, but again, that has evolved. They're all 3 out of the 4 are now legal drinkers, and we will have a cocktail together. Absolutely no problem. We have wine nights. Like, it's not a big deal. But was
you're adults now.
Right.
Yeah.
But now I have a different relationship with them. We are more like friends and peers, and I'm still their parent, but I'm not parenting them. So it was different. But we always served sparkling cider at holiday dinners. That was our family tradition from when I was a kid, and I kept it going for my kids. They actually ask for sparkling cider they always ask me when they come over for Christmas dinner. They're like, you got Martinelli's, right? And I was like, yes, of course.
You choose that over everything because it's so good.
So good. And you can do like the champagne toast with it. We did that on New Year's when the kids were small. There's bubbles. It feels really fancy. But I know that doesn't fly for all families, and that's totally fine. But just understand that when you have conflict and you add alcohol to the mix, it escalates
to the fire. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you know that it's going to be a tricky holiday, if you are coming off something as obvious as politics or the vaccine or something like that, and you know it's going to be dicey, like maybe Pinterest up a really pretty mocktail with all the frilly stuff, so it's not even like, where's this and this. Like, you can have stuff on reserve if people are like feeling like they have to leave the party to go get something and that makes you feel uncomfortable, but you don't need to have a bunch of bottles out,
No, you shouldn't, because I mean, you can bring them out as needed. And you can offer people, would you like a red or a white or whatever it is, but be careful on over serving.
Don't leave it on an open bar situation, because then you're just leaving people to like, then you're
encouraging it at that point. You're encouraging it. And and I will, as a mom of a child in recovery, I will say that you never know what people are going through and struggling with in their own lives. You never know. You don't know when people enter your home, whether they have an issue that they are struggling with, they haven't shared yet. They don't owe you explanations, that you don't have to share things like that with people.
They could be really struggling and feel really uncomfortable asking you to have like a dry party,
Right.
So
you could be triggering someone who is really struggling. I will say this, that the amount of people who began to struggle with alcohol and prescription drugs and other items during the pandemic skyrocketed. So even if years in the past, the person did not have this struggle, it may be something new that they are just starting to explore now, or that they know they're struggling and have, not shared it with you. So if you don't have free flowing alcohol everywhere, it benefits everyone. And you can ask each individual person, would you like a glass of wine or not? That gives the person the option to decline, and it's not sitting on the table in front of them. And
everyone's drinking, so they feel like they need to partake. Yeah, there's a lot of what could go wrong if you just leave it to like an open bar. Although it's nice to have these options for people, don't feel pressured to. It doesn't make the party any more valuable having that there,
No, it doesn't.
But again, do what you need to do. Just know that if things go south, maybe look at the bar and go, could I is this the culprit? Yeah, it's a part of it. Yeah.
And okay, so the last tip that we have for you is something that I do all the time for everyone. But it's if the situation starts to happen on its own, how to de-escalate. And I have a couple different tactics I use with this. I have I have a lot of people in my life who vibrate at a high intensity level. So if you get those people in the same space, conflict is imminent.
Inevitable. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I have learned a lot of tips and tricks for this. My favorite one is to distract and redirect. So if I see a topic coming up, if I see somebody, I can usually tell by body language they're upset by something someone just said, they're getting riled up. I will usually try to redirect that person into an activity or into a conversation with another person, separate those people. Like I'm more seasoned at this, so I can do that without it being obvious to the person. Sometimes it makes it worse when you try to step in and separate people. But this is something that I learned very, very much so when my grandmother was suffering from dementia. She would get very, very upset about things that you couldn't resolve for her, because she's upset about someone who passed away like 50 years ago. And you can't tell them, hey, they passed away 50 years ago. Like, what's the matter with you? Like, you have to.
It does not, you cannot, because like they don't like being told, like, and
you're re-traumatizing them. It's a very cruel thing to do.
So you're right. So, you are very seasoned at this, because
and imagine as a mom, you will get this. Imagine you are dealing with a toddler. Distract and redirect is what we mothers all do to toddlers without naming it. The toddler wants to eat the banana that they just ate, and they're mad that they can't have the banana back again and you try to give them a new banana. They don't want that banana. They want the banana that they just ate. Why can't you make it whole again? Oh my God.
Parenting is the weirdest thing, because like seriously, you have the most bizarre conversations with these little people, and they're convinced, and it's very similar to someone going through
dementia or a tiny drunk person. They want to drink the water that's in the toilet. They don't want a water bottle. They don't want a sippy cup. They want the water that's in the toilet. Give them the water that's in the toilet. And I mean, you can't sit an 18-month-old or 2-year-old down and explain why the water in the toilet is not appropriate to drink. You have to distract and redirect. So
you do, because when you do, everything gets significantly better. There's no screaming, there's no crying, there's no anger. It's just and do it in a way where you're not making them feel stupid. We're not saying like, look what's over here. Like you come up with another subject. You ask them to help you in the kitchen with something really quick. You just kind of like, you see the truck coming, it's going to hit you straight forward, and you just merge them somewhere else, because it's going to happen.
Yeah. You say, oh my gosh, Uncle Sam, have you seen Jack's new car? It's amazing. He just got it.
Do it in a way where you make the people aware that you're, do it a little bit before. Don't wait until they're yelling at each other. Do it when, like you say, you start to notice the body language starts to get funny. You start to notice that it's heading that way. Because some people are always uncomfortable to even like do that. They're like, oh, if I say something now, they know I know. Like, no, it's a better thing, especially if you're hosting. You have this feeling like, you've hosted things before. You feel like you are very responsible for everyone having the best time ever. So if that's your job, be aware of people's body languages, be aware of people's dynamics. And if there's an opportunity for you to have them look at some new picture you got in the entryway, then have them look at it. You don't know if they care, but this is going to help this problem go away.
Yeah. I mean, just saying, oh my gosh, did you guys see we redecorated the bedroom? Let me go show you. Changing the topic is a big thing. Now, that being said, that's my number one thing to do. If it's already gotten past that point, and then the distract and redirect is no longer an option. When you're trying to diffuse a situation, you need to be unemotional. You need to keep your tone super even, because you can easily be the one that escalates the situation by reacting emotionally to it. So you need to have a really calm, even tone of voice, and just say something that it's almost impossible to argue with. Like, this seems to be a hot button issue. What else can we talk about? Or
because they're listening to not only how you're saying, but what you're saying, to see whose side you're siding with. You're like, oh, so you think so-and-so's right. No, never said that.
Yeah. Or, hey guys, I can see that you're upset. Why don't we table this discussion until everybody's calmer? And when you say it in a way that places zero, that's actually the key. Place zero blame. And have as little emotion in your voice as you can, other than firmness. Now, if you are not the type of person who can speak up like that, I've got people, I know.
I'm that person.
But
I
not-
go run and find my husband. I'm like,
Yeah,
Dan,
okay, that's
my dad and my brother are fighting. Can you like just go say something? And
So
he does.
that's
He's
the
good at
thing.
it.
Like find your ally before the holiday. Find your ally before the holiday.
Okay.
Somebody that people will listen to. There's usually someone in the family that kind of has that leadership, little bit of a role. If they're not the divisive person, don't choose them. If they're the one causing the drama,
If they're the one in the drama, pick another person.
Yeah, if they're bringing the drama, don't pick them. Pick someone that people listen to and tends to have an even head, and ask them, hey, you know what? This is going to be our signal. So if I do this signal, or if you do it to me, like we know we got to jump in. And this
district symbol from Hunger Games, and to come in and fix this.
Yeah, like tag team it, and
Mhm.
and ahead of time come up with a couple different things that you're going to say to diffuse the situation, so that you're both on the same page and that person understands what you want them to do. Having an ally in this means that no one's going to gang up on you and say, stay out of it, it's none of your business, we're talking, go sit down. Like, you don't want to be the person that everyone like two sides can be fighting, and if you get in the middle, both sides might attack you. So you want to have that strong ally person.
It's so true. It's so weird how things go. Like, they're fighting and then they fight you, and then they go back to fighting each other, but they also hate you. You're like, I was just trying to fix this weirdness for my party. Yeah, it's so weird, because bottom line, you can't not invite people for the sheer fact that you are like foreseen drama. You have to, and there are situations where it's inevitable and it might happen, it probably will happen, it's going to happen, but they have to come, because if I don't invite them, that's worse than them coming and having the drama happen.
Yeah.
Be prepared, have a plan, have an ally, have ideas, have games, avoid alcohol. These are all really good tips. Do everything that we listed, because at the end of the day, you deserve to have a great holiday, whatever that holiday is, and those people are still going to be invited, even if it's easier for everyone if they don't come. You can't not invite grandma, so let's have a game plan, because we can't just wing it.
And if your issues with your family are much more deep rooted and personal, and you've decided this is the year that you're going to have boundaries with your family, and the same scenario happens every holiday, and this is the holiday you're trying to avoid it, you can try all these tips and tricks. I hope they work for you. If they don't, you might not have a choice other than to walk away. You might not have a choice other than to say, you know what, it was great seeing you. Before this goes any further, we're gonna head out, but I appreciate you guys hosting. Can't wait to see you next time. That kind of a thing. And don't again, no blame, no yelling, none of that. Just when it's time and you can't kind of diffuse the situation and you can't like save it, just walk away. It's better than.
Sometimes setting boundaries is getting a plane ticket and having a new tradition of going somewhere and not going to the holiday. Sometimes, because like that's not what we're talking about, but like sometimes you always know that we're going to Aunt so-and-so's house for Christmas, and it's like that every year. And for the last 9 Christmases, she always brings up how I'm not married and I don't want to deal with it for a 10th Christmas. Well, maybe go to Barbados, maybe setting boundaries is is putting yourself first, and then having your own holiday in the way that you deserve,
Right. And if you have a family dynamic that is unhealthy, toxic, any of that, and you're trying to create a new dynamic for your own children and your own family, that's your right. And I will say though that in my opinion, please tell me if you have a different opinion, because I don't have this situation, so I'm kind of talking in a general way. If you have a family dynamic like that and you're trying to create a new one for your children, it's nice if you communicate that to your family members and let them know what that boundary is, and let them know that if it's you bringing it up, this is this expectation. If they can't come, then you're going to leave, and we won't be able to do holidays together anymore. But give them the opportunity for change, because people do change and growth is possible. And if people want, to have a different kind of relationship with the grandchildren, the, extended family, giving them the opportunity to create that is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Now, I mean, I'm not saying give them unlimited opportunities, but if you say, I've noticed every holiday, it turns into a shouting match. we don't yell in our house, and my kids aren't used to it. It's very disruptive for them. So if voices get raised, I'm going to have to head out. And if it happens again, we may decide to spend the holiday just us. I hope that doesn't offend you, but this is my boundary. That's very healthy to say that.
It's
and
so
that's
fantastic.
okay.
It's called
Yeah.
cutting the cord of some unhealthy traditions that you have. And that's totally okay, because coming from, a childhood that had some toxicity in it, like we all do, I made some very firm decisions that I wasn't going to have certain things in my family. And those you have to protect like very hard, because you don't want that to be their new tradition,
Right.
and you don't want that to be their memories. And you have every right to set boundaries like that, and every right to leave if it's not. Don't ever feel obligated to stay or to do anything because of some attachment you have to somebody. And that's
Right.
why I love the new world we're in, because people are being more proactive at being, like, no, I don't stand for this. No, I'm not going to sit with this. No, I'm not going to just roll with this.
That's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't, I just use the example of wanting something different for your children, but I want to make sure that I communicate that it doesn't have to be about that. You don't even have to have children to have new boundaries with someone. If you've always had a dynamic with your parents or grandparents or siblings that turns toxic quickly, and you want to change that, you are allowed to change the rules anytime. You are allowed to say, I know this is how we've communicated in the past, but I've been working on myself, and I don't want to speak that way to my family members anymore. And I don't want to be spoken to that way anymore. And so if things start to go that way, just so you know ahead of time, it's, I'm going to bow out because I'm doing this work on myself, and that's what I need to do. And if they don't respect that tells you a lot about the relationship.
You owe nobody anything. Like, if they aren't respecting your basic human boundaries, then I don't care who they are. We all deserve certain basic things, and if they're not bringing it to the table, you don't owe them anything.
Right. Exactly. I had someone, it wasn't a family member, but I had someone come at me really aggressively the other day for very much an overreaction. And my response was, I really want to have this conversation with you productively, but you're going to need to soften your tone. And I could see their face, like no one had probably ever said that to them before. And
because they've always used that as a weapon, and they've always gotten away with it.
Right. Probably being aggressive and being a little bit loud was the tool in their toolbox that they have for conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't work for me. So I was really clear with that person, and hopefully that situation never comes up with that person again, because we do need to collaborate on some projects. But if it does, I will have no problem reminding them and saying, I had asked you in the past to be careful of your tone. And so I'm just going to walk away now, and we can have this conversation by email, because, I can't allow myself to be spoken to that way. Yeah. And that's totally fine. You are allowed to draw healthy boundaries. It doesn't matter if it's a friend or family member or a coworker or a sibling. If it's
Christmas at mom's that you've done for 20 something years, if it becomes toxic or unhealthy for you or your loved ones, like your kids or whoever it is, you have every right to cut it off right then and there. Especially if you've given them notice, you can send the email out about the gathering ahead of time, and they'll still bring it up because they don't think you're really serious about it. But when you take a firm stance, then they see you in a different light. That's why that person like shifted the way they saw you, because it was like, oh, okay, this person this isn't gonna work.
I'm a big believer in giving people the opportunity to change and grow. And I believe that some people have toxic patterns in their behavior that maybe no one's ever confronted them about before, or maybe is normal for them. And I like to believe that people are good, and given the opportunity to do better, they will. So I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't blindside them. I ask them for a change of behavior. If that doesn't happen, I respect myself enough and my relationships with my immediate family to draw those boundaries. Mm-hmm. And say, we love you, and we want to have you in our holidays with us, but I can't have you here if this is how you're going to be, because we don't do that in our home.
Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than the person doing something, a behavior over and over and over, and you silencing it for so long, and then you just not taking it anymore, and then finally letting it out. Well, this is the first they might ever be hearing about all this stuff.
They may not know how you feel. They may not have any idea how what they're doing is making you feel.
Yeah. They may have been talking about your weight every Christmas for years, but this year you're going to stand up for yourself. Yes, you have every right to, but this is the first time they're really hearing it, you know? So
Right. I have a family member, not my immediate family, but someone in my family circle who it's a generational thing and a cultural thing. I'll say that. And they comment on my body, my weight. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I absolutely impacts me zero. But
Wow.
I have explained to my partner, I don't care about that. It really doesn't bother me because I don't have that hot button issue. But if this occurs with my daughters,
Oh,
I'm done. I'm done. And we need to say something, but I would not confront that person for myself because it doesn't really impact me that much.
yeah.
But I won't allow that kind of conversation towards my daughters or in their presence because they are still growing. They're 19 and 23. Those are really, I mean, those are the ages where we really need to have so much body love. So I won't, that's something I will immediately call out. And we we just have to have that boundary in my house. And I got my partner to be involved and partner with me on that because it was important. So again, like people can say whatever they want to me, but don't come at my kids.
Yeah.
I'm a tiger mom.
For generational. I remember, I mean, but every holiday, my grandparents, my grandma would always comment about how little and thin I was and how I need to eat more. And it's like, that doesn't sound like but you're looking at someone's body,
it's commenting,
and you're making them feel like, you know, they're not. And I don't know if my mom or dad overheard it, but it is so like old person generational thing that like they don't even get how destructive comments like that but they are destructive.
Commenting about other people's bodies is just no longer okay. But that's really hard for the older generations who were raised to think that commenting on people's bodies positively was a compliment, or
like they grew up when they didn't have any food. How could I dare look this way on by choice? Look like you need to eat. Like, you know, it's like, oh, like, okay, I didn't live through the Depression, so you get to be a jerk to me my whole life about my weight. Like, no, this does not make any sense. You know, I could have a metabolism issue you have zero clue about. You know, I could have a medical issue that your granddaughter could have a medical issue, and you're commenting on her weight like it's a choice thing. You know?
And I mean, my youngest daughter has a heart issue. She was playing 3 sports and then suddenly had to stop, and her body did change a little bit. And the last thing she needed to hear was anybody telling her anything about her body or asking. It's your health, your body, none of anybody's business.
A lot of people think that it's just a choice thing. Like, oh, I just want to look this way, so I eat this way. No, it could have nothing to do. It could be how your body is functioning.
Yeah, when I was taking, I was taking a medication that's used for chemo for anti-immune disorder at one point, and I did lose weight very quickly. Not by choice, not something I was trying to do, but I got a lot of people complimenting on me, and I got to the point where I would say, "Thanks, I'm on chemo." Like just to shut people up.
Just because they look at you like, oh, this isn't vanity reasons.
I wasn't
vanity reasons.
Yeah. And I wasn't doing it for my benefit. It didn't bother me when people brought it up. I was doing it because they might say the same thing to someone else who was in a really unhealthy food pattern at that point and needed them not to say that. So I was doing it for other people. I don't care. It really doesn't bother me. I don't give a crap, but so I hope that these tips have helped you guys to navigate through the holidays. It's such a touchy time. Again, if nothing works and you're throwing in the towel, go to Fiji for Christmas.
That's what I said. Like sometimes don't feel pressured to follow these traditions because they've been the same traditions forever. But if they make you feel unhealthy and terrible for weeks after, like you deserve that trip. Go do something that's going to be healthy for you.
The holidays are supposed to be a time of joy. If they're not a time of joy for you, go off-grid camping, go where no one can reach you. Like,
be around friends, be around people that lift you up and encourage you and make you feel good. You know, create your own set of family. If the family that you have been born into is not one that's healthy and you literally dread Christmas,
then go have your friend. Yeah, go have your Friendsgiving and go do whatever you want to do. Like
bring joy to yourself, because sometimes the email and all that, it's still going to be that way, and you're still going to be leaving feeling like crap, and you just went to Utah for no reason. Then don't.
Okay.
So bless you. Don't do it.
If you need an example of what we're talking about, go watch 4 Christmases. Reese Witherspoon, because that movie is exactly the example of why they would take trips for Christmas instead of seeing their families.
Yeah, or it's not even about the holiday awkwardness, but the holiday with like Kate. Remember when they switched houses? She thought about her own needs that Christmas and just took care of herself. Self-care is like pro self-care this Christmas. You know, sometimes it's being around family. If it's a little thing that you can kind of work through, but if it's like so big that it's not going to get worked out through our tips, think about yourself. Do something different. Try something, mix it up this year.
If you're working through something and you're still really raw and you can't take the trigger, then just avoid it completely. And we give you permission to do that. So, all right, guys, thank you. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to bookmark our site, she'safullonmonet.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're enjoying this podcast, it helps us a lot if you can follow, rate, and review. See y'all next week.